Добрый день, my name is Alexandra Slatenko, and I am an LFC facilitator and a non-credit ESL student.
Здравствуйте, I am an ASC Downtown Ambassador and ESL student.
Sorry, Molly, do you have the scripts or Alex?
Yes, I can.
Okay, Alex, go ahead.
On behalf of the Downtown Associated Student Council and Office of Student Activities, I'm very excited to welcome all of you to our first Leadership Fireside Chat this semester. For those who are not familiar with this leadership development program, the purpose of this leadership chat is to equip CCSF students and student leaders with a wealth of leadership insights, tips, and strategies.
We hope you will have a better understanding of leadership in action from a diverse group of effective and seasoned leaders across various industries. This is our first fireside chat for fall 2023. We have learned so much from our last speakers. There is no doubt today's session will be just as educational and inspiring.
Before we introduce today's speaker, I'd like to share a few details about the program. These sessions are open to all students, even if you don't participate in the certificate part of the program. For those who attend 7 out of 10 leadership fireside chats during the academic year, will receive a certificate of participation at recognition dinner event early in May. You will have an opportunity to network and chat with our leadership fireside chat speakers. Since you have registered for today's sessions, we have a record of your attendance. Nothing further is needed on your end to mark your participation. These sessions are recorded and links will be posted on CCSF Student Activity Office website. You can view later or share with others so that they may benefit from this learning opportunity. If you have questions about this Leadership Fireside Chat program and/or the certificate of participation, please email student activities at ccsflive@mail.ccsf.edu.
After the opening remarks, Vice Chancellor Geisce Ly will interview our speaker for about 50 minutes. Around 5 p.m., there will be a Q&A opportunity for the speaker to respond to your questions. If you have any questions, please send them privately to Dean Rusali, who will be organizing the questions for our speaker for Q&A portion. During the last 10 minutes of our time together, we will invite you to share what you've learned today and will help you. That will help you in your leadership development journey. Now I'm going to turn it over to Jose to share Elle Rustique's bio with us.
Hello, everyone. Bienvenidos and welcome, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Jose Kerkeve. I am an executive and team coach. I am an ESL student at CCSF. I would like to introduce today's speakers. Elle Rustique. Elle is the CEO and founder of TipBrightly, the first female-founded social impact and fintech company on a mission to help tip service workers recover the lost opportunity for earnings in an increasingly cashless society. A published author, Elle holds a degree from Washington University in St. Louis, Columbia University's Teachers College, and University College London's Institute of Education. She also has a postdoctoral fellowship at Stanford University, devoting her life's work to improving educational systems to be more equitable. Elle began her career in education as a high school teacher in East Harlem, New York. The daughter of first-generation immigrants from the Philippines, Elle was inspired to build a cashless tipping platform to help women like her mother, whose tips she spent on her children. Welcome, Elle, and we look forward to hear from you today with Vice Chancellor Geisce Ly. Geisce, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jose, and thank you to all the student facilitators. This is a wonderful program. For the folks who are new to this program, Elle is our 21st speaker. We've had 20 other speakers in the last 2 years. So for the folks who don't know this, we have 5 speakers a semester, 10 a year. So again, Elle is our kickoff speaker for this academic year, and we're just delighted that Elle, you're able to join us today. I should tell you a couple of things, just because I am so impressed with Elle. She is just so remarkable that as the conference chair of this conference that I am planning, she is going to be one of the keynote speakers for a conference down near Disneyland. So again, today is a preview of how amazing she is. We can't wait for Elle to share some of her life lessons and just insights with some of the community college administrators, and in February when we have this conference. The second thing you should know about Elle is that she's pretty remarkable. Again, we don't just ask anybody to be a speaker. Elle has done amazingly incredible amount of work. Again, her credentials are just pretty remarkable. And again, today she's going to talk to us much more about her life stories. And again, for the participants, we invite folks to really not just talk about what they've done, but how to inspire you as students to take on the next challenge in life. Again, they're a consistent theme of you can do it. That is the consistent theme. Put your mind to it. You can do it. You can be successful no matter what endeavors you wish to pursue. So again, I think it's amazing that we have Elle as our kickoff speaker, and I can't wait to learn more about her life stories. So Elle, are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm sorry, Elle. So before we begin, while you're listening to the amazing chat and and questions, post it into the chat box. I don't know if on the Zoom, if you have questions for Elle later during the questions and answers, and send it to me or Rusali. Thank you.
Yeah, no, again, we're going to be asking Elle some questions, but again, for the audience, we'll be asking you to ask Elle some questions later. So again, you have questions, we'll remind you to post your questions in the chat. But I don't want to take up more time because, again, I'm going to be taking notes. And Elle, again, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. I mean, what a wonderful welcome. I've had an opportunity to talk to Geisce about, what I'm going to share, and it just feels very welcoming. And I'm excited to share what my experiences are, but I'm also equally excited to hear your questions, because I think that's when the connection is really made. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get started. So tell us more about your career path and how you got to where you are today.
I think my career path, to be honest, really started very young. And it actually began, and I think all of you can think about sort of the first time you really wanted to do something, really wanted to change, the world or solve a problem. So I really think when I was reflecting on this, I thought, when did it start? It really started when I was young, and it was my interest in solving problems, whether it was just in playing or, in things that I saw. So, after that, I did go through the education system in the US. My father was in the Army. And so we moved quite a bit every 3 to 5 years. And that taught me how to really adapt to new environments, and just to learn, learn to be comfortable with questions. I went to university at Washington University in St. Louis. And there I started to really think about education as my career. I'd explored, law and medicine, but the education seemed to me something that was in my heart, and wanting to both learn and love learning, and also help people learn, children, and to build the capacity through knowledge to change their own lives. So I found it much more powerful than say medicine or law. I really like the idea of helping people help themselves. After that, I then pursued an education career. I started with teaching in East Harlem. I was very fortunate to land in one of the most experimental high schools at the time in the U.S., where basically the idea was to think about schools very differently, not have grades, do more interdisciplinary teaching. And so that really, again, was this experience where I learned that things didn't have to always be structured in the way that we're used to. After that, I got interested in that mission. So I became a researcher at Teachers College after completing my master's in education policy. And there I felt like I had this experience, this remarkable experience teaching in this a remarkable school, and asked myself, why couldn't more schools be like that? Why couldn't more schools be where students were taught to learn to think, they're taught to use their minds well, as opposed to just being taught to learn subjects. So that's how I got into policy, and how to actually scale innovations. So I then went to London. I then was curious about the system there, how different it was in the United States. I conducted that research, and then I was invited to do my postdoc at Stanford and basically duplicate the study that I did in London. And that's what led me to Stanford. So at Stanford, I worked at different think tanks. I was a researcher. I wrote papers, and I learned to understand the whole system, and I did a lot of work in policy overall, like curriculum and teaching, and I did that for over 10 years, and then there was a grant that was funding my work, and it ran out. So the foundation is called the Gates Foundation. I think you might know that. Of the Gates Foundation, they were focused on small schools and innovation in high school, and then they stopped that. So there I found myself at this juncture of, do I continue to work at, in higher ed, publishing, writing, researching. And at that point I was thinking, this is not having an impact. I'm a big fan of higher ed, but I'm also like, what is this going to do for the world? And so I decided to take a massive leap, a very scary leap, to start a company. And the company is called TipBrightly. So I'll pause there. I won't start with the story of like how we founded the company, but those were the elements of my career that led me to this point that I'm at now.
So I'm curious again. Your stories and the path you've taken is just so fascinating. And for the folks who don't know, the two institutions are pretty remarkable institutions to get into. It's again, your educational credentials are pretty remarkable, and again, you took this leap of faith. So what compelled you to do that, and what experiences led you to want to do this? Because again, it's curving in a different direction.
Yeah. Apart from craziness, I think that what happened really was, and this I think will lead you to think about entrepreneurship before leadership. It was really thinking about, again, like this was really part of my DNA, is what kind of problem I wanted to solve. But that problem came to me. I was at Stanford, in my job as a researcher, I traveled a lot. And I found myself increasingly, frequently, not able to leave a tip. So this bothered me. And the reason why it bothered me, because my mother was a housekeeper growing up. For over 20 years, she cleaned rooms. And I always knew when she earned a tip because she would take my brother, my sister, and me to a special trip to McDonald's. So that for me always signified that she had earned a tip, and I knew that for women like her, that they were spending their tips on their children, their home, food, and that when I couldn't leave a tip, this was essentially not giving them the cash earnings to do that, and whatever they had was extra, like my mom. So the question there for me at that point was, all right, it's annoying, right, to not be able to do that. But then I started thinking about why, why can't I do this? We have all this technology. I can, PayPal my sister, I can check my bank accounts, I can move money around, and why can't I just leave a tip? This doesn't make any sense to me. And so that's where I wanted to solve the problem. I thought, okay, there's got to be some way to do this. And that's, that was the impetus for exploring technology. So mind you, I did not have financial services background, nor did I come from technology, nor did I come from, corporate environment, which this totally has thrust me into. So that's another, I think another set of questions is like, how would you think that you could do this? But that's really was a convergence of this problem that I felt could be solved through technology and wasn't providing access, wasn't being accessed by, the most vulnerable people. And then, connecting that with my mom and that experience of how much tips really didn't matter. I also saw this as a real problem for society, like, that the cashless society was going to have a disproportionate impact on those who relied on cash-based income. So not just housekeepers, is anyone who couldn't receive money without cash, that they would be affected. And a company was featured in the New York Times years ago, and I really liked their headline, which is, unintended consequences, casualties of a cashless society. So that concept really drove me to think this is not just an individual problem of inconvenience. This is a systemic one.
So, in terms of getting to know you better, I'm curious to learn more about your values and how your core values sort of help you make decisions as you venture into this, starting TipBrightly. I'm just curious, can you share your values with us?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would group them. My values into some values about society. And so I value equity and access and opportunity. Those are really important to me. And the other things that are really important to me is the bucket of education. So, being able to inquire, be inquisitive, that's a value. Being able to think about thinking, so metacognition is a value that's really important to me. I think that's how, you really grow as a person, if you're really thinking about how you're thinking. And I think also just asking questions. So that's part of inquiry. But then my personal values, I really value hard work. That's really my background. I think my mom worked really hard. My dad worked hard. And so I value that just in, being industrious. I also value empathy and people who were emotionally intelligent. So the two things work hand in hand, in my opinion, that, in order to be emotionally intelligent, to understand how people are feeling, or, and how to be a decent human being, you need to have empathy and think about their perspective. So, I mean, there's a lot of values and concepts that I can go into further, but I really do think that those do drive what I do, what I want to do and how I interact with people. So I didn't make the laundry list, Jesse, but those are some of them.
So you mentioned a value that I don't think gets talked about a lot, which is to think about how we're thinking. So can you say more about that? Because I think sometimes a lot of our own personal development, self-growth is to reflect, right?
That's right, it is.
So it sounds like you do a lot of reflection, a lot of thinking about what I'm thinking. So can you say more about that aspect of just reflecting?
I mean, I think you nailed it. I think reflection is at the core of being metacognitive. So you have to be, aware of that your thinking may be, okay, let me try to unpack this. So let me see what I tell a student. I would say that, you're aware of how you're thinking about a problem. So are you looking at it from this perspective, one perspective? Let's say if they're people, like let me take the business. Am I looking at this from an employee, a housekeeper's perspective? Am I looking at this from a business or client perspective? Are we looking at this from who else is being affected by this? So also the guest, right? The guest who's tipping. So for me, being metacognitive is like being aware that you're thinking about the problem from a different perspectives. Not there's not just there's one, but that there's multiple ones. The other thing is the metacognition helps you assess your options. So if you're thinking about this as a problem, then you'll treat it as a problem. If you're thinking about something like, okay, this is an opportunity, then it will be an opportunity. So how you think about something, not just from perspective, but how you define it, that to me is as being metacognitive.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like it's part of having an entrepreneurial mindset, right?
Yeah.
And certainly as a very successful entrepreneur,
Yeah.
I'd love for you to say more about what does it mean to develop, cultivate an entrepreneurial mindset. So metacognition is one, trying to solve a problem, right? But how would you sort of share with our students, what does it mean to really be entrepreneurial in terms of the mindset we need to have to think outside, I hate to say it, outside the box?
Yeah, I think that to be an entrepreneur, it's fascinating to me because it really actually parallels the process of like of doing a dissertation or a PhD. So to be an entrepreneur that is going to stay in the game, I believe it's essential that you have a problem, an area, an industry, something that you are very passionate about. That has to happen with a dissertation. You're 5-7 years with this thing. It better be something you are interested in, you like. But that's also for an entrepreneur because this is not something that just gets accomplished overnight. It lives and it dies and it lives and it dies. So that determination, and that's another value that I think you have to have, a skill is determination, is what gets you through, the tough times, right? So knowing something that's valuable to you. It's also like, I think another spin-off of that value is that it not only gives you that passion, but it can also serve as your like North Star. So you need a North Star, I think, in life. Now, I have, mixed feelings about that because at the same time, I always think life evolves and you're not quite sure where things are going. So you have to hold that in one hand, and the other hand, you have some direction that you're leading towards. It's something that matters to you. It's something that you want to solve. People are motivated by different things. Like I explained that I'm motivated by people who, by social problems. Like, I want to fix this, it really bothers me. Some of the entrepreneurs are motivated by money. They want to make money, and there's no social impact about it. It's really like just figuring out the business, introducing a product that the industry needs or can be done better. But that I am right center in the social impact arena.
Well,
Does that help?
Yeah, and we're grateful that you are in that arena, because again, you're making a huge difference. So there's no doubt, Elle, as the CEO and founder, you're grappling with competing interests, nonstop work, periods of uncertainty, no time for yourself. So how do you sort of juggle and make it work? How do you sort of continue to be thriving when there's just everything all coming together and you got to help move it forward? So how do you keep it going?
Well, I don't always keep it going, number one. Okay. So sometimes you're not keeping going, sometimes you're just at a standstill. Sometimes yeah, you're just too exhausted to do anything. Having said that, I think this is where leadership comes into play when you are a company. I mean, when you're on an individual journey, there's not a leadership component, right? You're just doing this for yourself. You've got a quest. But when it comes to a company, a small group of people who you're leading, you kind of have to almost be, on all the time, because they are relying on you for direction, for expertise, for a lot of that. So how do I take care of myself when, the demand is relentless? I think one is you build a good team. My case with TipBrightly, I have a fantastic team. So basically you have to kind of trust that they are able to keep the ship running. So a lot of leaders are like, I'm the only one can do this, no one else can. I've got to be available. And that's just when you set yourself up for burnout. If you can, be confident and trust, and also delegate to your team, that helps you going energy wise. Again, the uncertainty, I think, can really help if you if you do have that North Star, and you can tell yourself that I know I'm on the path, we'll get there eventually. And so you just sort of pace yourself like a marathon, right? So I think that helps with the energy. And then the other last thing is, it's not last, I'm probably I'm leaving some things out, but right now, for example, I'm grappling with a cold. So you have to take care of your health. Absolutely. I mean, that's just number one. And I tell my team that if you are not feeling up to speed, if you need to take some time, if you need to just, whatever you need to do to take care of yourself, do it, because you're not good to yourself or anyone or the company if you're burnt out and tired and can't think properly. So I really try to lead by example. So this afternoon we had a meeting, and I said, I know I have a lot of meetings here, but I also have this, this event, which I have to be, on for. So I'm canceling that. And they were, it's like, what you have to say to yourself, what are you going to lose there? Like a day, half a day of work. So you have to be forgiving. That's the last thing about being a leader. And it's being forgiving. It's being clear. It's leading by example. And and it's having, some vision. There's a lot of things about being a leader that I'm happy to go into, but, transparency is another one. But those are values. And that's to me about, values-led, values-based leadership. And Jesse and I were talking about that. That's something I'm going to explore in that next talk. But values do matter, and articulating the values also matters a lot. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Elle, and I'm just fascinated, and I've been taking notes. So you mentioned values-based leadership. I know what it is, but again, for the students on this call, they might not know that. So can you give us a quick overview in terms of why it's so important to lead based on your values? So, I mean, I know you describe and you identified some values, but why is this leadership style more effective and more successful for long-term impact?
Okay, let me tackle this in a couple ways. So the value that I explained, right, I had was emotional intelligence. I really value that. So when you're leading, and in this case, a small team, I'm the CEO, I'm also leading product. So when I'm designing a product, I'm leading the product team to create a product that is emotionally intelligent. So I'm saying, I'm a values-based person. It sort of opens the path to like how it changes the company. So that's one important thing. So if you have, for example, you have if you don't have that value, then you're not really thinking about how your customer is going to interact with the product, right? It doesn't matter to them, but it matters a lot because I want them to feel a certain thing, a certain process, certain motions when they're leaving a tip. So that's one example of why I think that having values is important, because it can lead and influence how you design something. The other thing is that yeah, this is a not a tough one, but I have to really think about this one. Also values-based leadership helps you navigate decisions. So one is that it helps you with the product and when creating, and the other is as a CEO, as a leader, you're making decisions all the time. And if you're clear about your values, for example, I value collaboration, then it influences how you lead your team. So I like to have, sales and marketing, Zia and Ella working together collaboratively. That's another, and there are certain things that another value is a transparency. So I believe that a leader should be transparent and open about what's happening, in the company, for example, or, just what's happening. So no one wants to be a mushroom in the dark, right? So transparency helps with that. So that's why I said, like, there's a whole bunch of values that I have, and I can probably take each one and map it to why it's important to the company.
Absolutely. No, I'm just so fascinated with how you lead. Again, this values-based leadership style is different than, again, autocratic style, right? There's certain ways that worked 50, 60 years ago, but certainly no longer working here. And certainly with a startup company, with a, fintech company, it's a different approach. So,
you'll hear, there's one other thing, is you'll read in the leadership, leadership, what is it called? The body of knowledge, about distributed leadership. So I really value that. I think that's so important to have, your leadership distributed. And so that is how I view, everyone on the team is a leader. So how are you going to lead this? It's like, that's kind of how we are meeting. Who's leading this? Are you leading this? Or, who's going to help you lead this? It's just, it's a distributed leadership model.
And there's no doubt, you've created a culture of kindness, right? A culture of inclusion. And I'm sure that helps a lot with your team morale and team spirit, right? So I'm sure they're working very hard as well. So how do you motivate, inspire them to keep going as well? Because again, it's something that you are very proud of, to be able to make a difference in terms of having this kind of social impact. So can you say more in terms of motivating a team, inspiring your team?
Yeah, I'm going to just say this off the cuff, and it's really recent right now. We just have this amazing CFO. So she's a CFO and a chief operating officer. And, one thing that and we all work overload, right? So one thing I think that motivates them is knowing that there's someone else that's going to come on. It's like it's a feeling of relief. So that's motivating. Motivating is that I, as a CEO, am bringing in the resources that they need to succeed. So when you don't have that, it's terribly demotivating, right? You're just thinking, how am I going to get this done? The leader doesn't understand. So I think resources can really be a driving factor if if you're understanding where they should go, right? So the other thing that I think a couple weeks ago, I was in Hawaii, and fortunately not on Maui. But every time, and my team, one's in the Philippines, two are in the Philippines, another was in Pakistan, is that we're just aware of like what's going on, in our environment. And I think that we really care. So how do you motivate people? You show care. Like you mentioned kindness, but this is why I'm using that places of like, in Philippines, there was like close to a typhoon. Then there was all these natural disaster things. And we all looking out for each other, what's happening. It's being motivating is also being aware of the whole person, not just who they are in that role in the company. You see them, they keep care. I mean, I know that when I was a high school teacher, the students who did, when they'd say that it just took them one person who cared that they showed up, right? Sometimes it's just like that. If only one person cared. Certainly not that with TipBrightly, but it's that idea that, if one person cares about me, and with us, we have a whole team of people that are, worrying. I mean, one was in LA, and she, was in the hurricane. And so we were all on it, just checking in. So I think that's it. It's just being caring and knowing and treating people as human beings, not just workers.
Mm-hmm. So I had to take notes here. So two of your leadership team are in the Philippines and one's in Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just it just sounds so, wow.
Yeah. And then one's in LA. Yeah. And then I'm in the Bay Area. I'm actually the only one in the Bay Area.
So I mean, for the students on this call, right? I mean, that is probably the new, the new, I don't know the work. I don't even know what to call it. Right? I mean, it's an international. Your staff is all over the world.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's where the values come in, because people who you'll respond, right? If you all share the same values, and they think that that social impact and caring about the world and caring about people is like everyone feels that way. I think if someone came along and wanted TipBrightly to be a certain platform, or like you got to move faster, you got to be a Venmo, or you got to do all these things in order, it just wouldn't work. They wouldn't really fit in. So that helps is to share the values and care about each other. I just got a Slack here. It says, I hope you're sleeping.
And I feel bad because
no, I'm not sleeping. That's really sweet. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's
Lots of hearts. I don't know how many emojis you are on Slack, if you use Slack, but that's just, sometimes there's more emojis.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. I want to get stuff done, but yeah. Sense of humor. You need to have a sense of humor. No,
yeah,
you can't go anywhere without that.
Absolutely. So Elle, I'm curious as well to get your thoughts. You're Filipina. I love to hear more about your cultural identity, how that has shaped you. You talked about your mother. You talked about your upbringing, but again, I'm curious in terms of now that you are a successful entrepreneur and in this CEO founder role. So say more about what that means in terms of representing and sort of making the commitment, right, to sort of role model for others as well.
Well, I mean, all of you may notice that the Filipinos are in the caring industries, right? There are nurses, there are home care, there I think there is something to be said about this culture, which just cares. And we're known as being friendly and being helpful and working really hard. And I didn't realize those were cultural characteristics, really. Until actually, with this team. So I won't go into how we came together. I have 3 Filipinos on the team. It started off with one, then who knew who and who knew this. But I noticed that now. It's just we just work hard. We just work really hard. I'm not saying other cultures don't. I'm just saying it seems to be something that we just know. I mean, I was telling them the other day, I said, I don't, sometimes like I don't feel, I'm not finished until I'm exhausted. And I mean, the whole group cracked up because they knew exactly what I was talking about. Like, we just don't stop until we're totally exhausted. So I think that helped. My dad, it's very interesting. My dad, they're both Filipino. And yet, they were living in the United States, and my dad was in the Army. So in some ways, like how my parents tried to fit in really influenced me. My dad especially, like the value of education really came apart, or he really imparted. He would always tell me knowledge is power, just over and over again. Knowledge is power, knowledge is power. When I got my PhD, he said, you have to do this and finish it because knowledge is power. So these are the kinds of things. So education was really part of my family culture. My mom was also a teacher. And then, just experiencing and realizing like just hard work and industrious, people, sorry, we're part of that. Does that, yeah. So those are a couple things that come to mind, Jesse.
Yeah, absolutely. Because our upbringing, it shapes us.
Yes, it does. It does. And the values, right. I came from a very, fortunately, like a very, just an inquiry based, I would say that's a term in education, right? Where it just was about exploring things, like go find out, you find out, or, I was really empowered to go find things out. And then to educate my parents. So a lot of you also know what it means to be a translator for your parents. So I was that too.
So Elle, we're coming towards the end of our time together, and certainly students on this call, if you have questions for Elle, please enter them in the chat. Certainly I have a few more questions for Elle before I turn it over to the student questions. So I'm sure some of our students one day might want to follow in your footsteps. I'm sure they want to have also an opportunity to create social impact and to be a change agent and to facilitate, change in whatever space, in whatever industry. So what are some advice that you would give to those who might be interested in starting a company, might wanting to be an entrepreneur, might want to take their talent to the next level?
I would say that, if you're starting a company, like I said, I think having it's two sides of the same coin. So one is like being very clear about what you want to accomplish, because that's really important. Like you just don't open a store, right? It's like, I've got a store. What are you selling in your store and why are you selling it? That has to be clear. It might change. Sometimes you might sell something else, but that part has to get you going. Sadly, I'm not sure if it's sad, but like it's just the hard reality of living in a capitalist society. Like, you need some capital. So whether you can save up some money to create a website or do things. So there's some capital. So I think if you talk to a lot of the startups, they were fortunate, and I was wanting to get some friends and family or something, but trying to do things without like any kind of capital is going to be hard. I'm not saying you can't do it. Maybe you can raise some money, but it's really hard when you're building a company in a capitalist society to create this, entity. I think that what you need to know, and again, I kind of operate a lot on the thinking cognitive level, but I do think you need to get ready physically and know that this is what's going to happen. Don't be shocked by like, okay, I've had 2 nights in a row I haven't had sleep, or I might be depressed, and that's okay. So if these things happen to you, then it's okay. Like, okay, everyone's been through this. Like, it's not like, why me? So helping, just sort of understanding what the physical and psychological impact it will be in starting a company will help cushion the blow. I think you still feel it, but you'll at least know that you're not the only one and that something's wrong with you. I mean, I've had dark days, right? So and then the other thing I would say is this whole thing about being a solo founder and a founder, I'm really on the fence with that. So the point is, whether you're a solo founder or you're a co-founder, you have to, I think, I lost my train of thought. You have to have support around you, right? So it's like, for years I was, didn't have a team. So what I had were a bunch of advisors. So these advisors would help, for everything from just like counseling to expertise, like here's how you read a P&L, or can you talk, maybe you want to talk to this person. So having support and resources around you is important. Knowing what you're getting to is important. Knowing where you're going is important. And I think those are the 3 things. I think you need a lot more, but those are the 3 things that come to mind. Yeah.
So Elle, going back to a conversation we had, so being a CEO founder is like climbing Mount Everest, right? It's not like that physically, but to your point, it's hard.
Yeah, I can tell you about the metaphors that I have about that mountain.
Yeah, I'd love to. Please.
So when I started out, honestly, I would meditate, and I would picture what I was doing, and it was a mountain that came up, right? So the first stage was coming in and going, I'm going down this path. I'm opening the gate and I'm going to approach this mountain. What does that mean? And then, you're on this mountain and you're climbing up. And, sometimes I felt like I was just crisscrossing the mountain, like taking all these steps just to go a little bit. And sometimes on the mountain, I felt like I was just throwing, one of those hooks up and just climbing up the mountain really, really hard, getting bruised, but somehow making it up there. Sometimes on the mountain, I was just clinging for dear life. So there was a storm, there's something. So these are all kind of, images that I'd have. And I don't know how helpful this is, but actually I do think images and relation to metaphors are helpful. But the point is that, it's not just a slope, right? It's not, it's like up and down and up and down. And sometimes you fall off the mountain. I mean, there were days where I just like, I'm going to climb back down. Done. I'm going to climb back down the mountain. But then when you also get to the peak, and you look around and there's one other mountain to climb. So I think the mountain metaphor really does apply to starting a company, especially a startup, is all the different points that you can be. And I still use that when I meditate. It's like, okay, where am I on the mountain? I don't know if that's meditation, but I call it meditation. So I hope that helps. Yes, we did talk about that. I was consistent with what we talked about.
Yeah, because there, like you said, there is no direct path. There is no one way. There's so many different paths to get to, wherever we're destined to be. But again, you definitely is a great example of being in the driver's seat, right? Having clarity, having, a North Star to follow.
Yeah.
So how would you share, I mean, in terms of sharing with our students, what would our students in preparation to climbing their mountain, right? We all have different obstacles, challenges, barriers, what would you say to our students in terms of prepping them to climb this mountain that are full of uncertainty?
Like I said before, I think it is just about having, clarity and knowing. It's like it's kind of like a very basic structure. I think it's about, knowing your who, what, why, when. So it does apply. So who are you helping? Who is this? What are you doing? Who are you? And there's a lot of questions I ask about the who, and then it's, what are you doing? And sometimes I stop back. I have to step back and go, okay, Elle, what are you doing? You have to clarify that. You always have to know your how, and then why, you have to know your why. So I'm able to tell my story because, I just had very clear whys, but I bet all of you have a why in you somewhere. You just got to dig it out and put some words to it. Having a timeline, may help, but I have to confess, I did not follow the timeline that I mapped out. I thought I was going to do, I thought I was going to get this done in like a few years. Instead, it's like going towards the decade, but that's how long it takes. So you have to be willing to like know what your timeline is and when you're stopped. Some are just like, I'm not going to go any further, and that's okay. That's okay. So I think at the end of the day, I would tell my students about starting a company is you can do it. It's okay if you don't. and you can succeed as also you can fail as well. But here are all the things that can help along the way. Yeah.
Well, Elle, I have one last question, and then I'm going to turn it over to Lena to facilitate the Q&A. So the one last question is, what do you want your legacy to be? You still have many, many, many more to do, many more years to go. What do you want your legacy to be?
I mean, this is just going to sound crazy, but I mean, I just want to change the world. I really want to have done something that really made a positive impact for a group that was, that needed it. There's a lot of ways that we're helping people, some that don't need help at all, and they're being helped. So my impact is, my goal and my hope for my legacy is that I help the people who needed help. That's it. Yeah, that's what I want to say. I help the people who needed help.
Well, I'm speechless right now because you're remarkable and you're doing remarkable things. And again, we're just I'm very inspired. So Elle, thank you so much for climbing this mountain and continue to climb the next mountain and just making the world a better place. So again, Elle, thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining this call. And certainly I can't wait for your keynote in February.
Yeah. Sniffling, but I'm also moved emotionally because, honestly, I'd not ever said that before. And thank you for the opportunity to express all of these, all of my these feelings and thoughts that clearly kind of led me to conclude that, actually. So that's what I want to do. It's a great question. Great question. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, you have more questions coming from the participant.
Okay, bring them on.
so we'll give you a break. So Lena, I will turn it over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Elle, for taking time out your busy schedule to share your stories and experiences with us. We have learned a lot today, especially about your values and your way of leadership based on values. It's kind of very inspiring and interesting for me personally, and I'm pretty sure for everybody else too. So we have a lot of questions.
Okay.
right now. And if you have more questions, please send them privately to Dean Rusali. For the next 20 minutes, I will be facilitating these questions and answers portion. I think we are ready to start. Is this okay with you, Elle?
Yep, I'm good. Bring them
Good.
on.
Great. Okay. First one. As you think about the future, what kind of legacy do you hope to leave through TipBrightly?
I think I just that is I really wanted to be able to say that what I did was and my company, my team, we optimized existing technology to help, the people who needed help. So I didn't have that part of when I, responded to Jesse, but I think being able to know that you can optimize things and help people, you don't have to build or spend billions of dollars. Sometimes the answer is right there in front of you and you're using it all the time. So I just want people to know that, like, you can do that. You can help people with what you already have. And that's the mobile payments aspect of TipBrightly. Like the technology was already tried and trusted.
Thank you for your answer. It's really interesting. Second one. Your professional journey includes experience in the field of education.
Mhm.
How has your background in education shaped your approach to leadership at TipBrightly? And what valuable insights from the education sector do you apply to fostering growth and development within your team?
I'll start. Okay, let me see. There's a lot there, but let me,
Yeah, a lot.
yeah. Let me start with the last thing you said. Like, what do I do a part of being an educator with my team? Like what the techniques I do. That's actually very clear. So I run meetings. I don't know how other companies run meetings, but I run meetings like, there's something we're going to learn about. So it's very like, of course there's planning to it, but I run it so that there's something that you're going to gain in knowledge from this meeting. It's almost like saying to, what is the purpose of this meeting? But I kind of flip it to like, what are they going to learn from this meeting? The other thing I do is I go into teacher mode. I will call people out. I'll just say, what do you think, so and so? And, what do you think, Ella? And then what did you think of what Ella said? So I'm just doing these kinds of techniques and as a teacher, and they've kind of gotten used to it. And I'm not sure if how that would fly in another corporate world where people are pretty much in their roles in their silos, but I kind of bring everyone together like, a classroom. So I'll leave it at that. What was the other part of the question before that?
I think how has your background in education shaped your approach to leadership at TipBrightly? I think this is another one.
Yeah, I think that how am I okay, so one thing I didn't mention before is that the area of work that I studied in, in higher ed, like my, master's and mostly my doctorate, was around social change. So, how do you take an idea and scale it across the country or across an organization? And that's organizational theory, that's about systemic change. And so what I see TipBrightly as is as something that is a social problem that needs to be scaled. And in doing so, you're a company, you're making business. I'm looking at my chart of like revenue. So it's sort of like it's happening there, but it's also it's like at its core for me about systemic change. So that's my education, and I kind of see that in order to scale this, you need to do, certain things, and things like how as this gets into like partnerships that we form, customers that we target. So there's a whole strategy in my mind is like, how do you get a whole industry to adopt this idea? And that directly comes from my education, where we did partnerships with schools and districts in order to launch an education initiative. And so the elements of that to be successful in that implementation are the same as implementing something like TipBrightly with a company, with a hotel. We work with hotels.
Great. Thank you, Elle, for your answer. And I have a third question. As a leader, what core values or principles do you believe have contributed to TipBrightly success? I think you answered partly to these questions already, but still it is interesting for us.
Yeah, I did. And if I answer the question, I might say something different. So let's stick with what I answered before.
Yeah, okay. First question, some key pointers you can give to our participants for them to succeed.
I think to succeed with this is you have to, I think it's determination. That just comes into my mind right now. It's like, regardless of what you try to solve, or, you know, who you work with, or any of these elements of who you lead, it's like you have to be determined, in my opinion. That's like a non-negotiable. If you're not determined, then I wouldn't say it's failure, but you're not going to sort of succeed in the way you maybe thought you would if you're not determined to do that. It takes sacrifice for sure. So that's my tip. That's my big tip. It's like, you gotta be, are you in for it? Like, are you in? Are you ready? That's the kind of what I mean by determination. We can't give up. I think within the founder world, we're always talking to each other about, like, you can't, it's so hard. It's so hard, and you can't give up. Don't give up. So that's so much easier than done, right? But that's really what it boils down to. Can't give up, and you got to stay determined.
What helps you don't give up?
That's a good question. I think for me, this feels like it's something I was just sort of I have to do. I don't really I honestly, like, what could I do at this point? You know, would I go into a corporation? You know, I'm just making this up, Meta. I can't imagine me working at Meta. Like, it's more of a fit now. So I don't want to give up, because this is what works for me. I don't know if I'm trying to think of like a pair of shoes, you know, you have these shoes, they feel comfortable. And if you don't keep going, you're going to have to take off the shoes and find another pair, and they're not going to fit, and you're not going to go anywhere. You might trip. Sorry, I'm just trying to turn this off. Yeah, so that's my thing, is like, I'm not giving up, because I like what I'm doing. And if I give up, it's more something that I've decided to do. I've decided to stop. I'm not giving up.
Thank you so much. And now Alex will ask a few more questions.
Thank you, Lena. I also have several questions from the audience.
Okay.
The next question is, who do you look up to for inspiration or mentorship?
My mom.
Can you tell a bit more? Inspires you?
Yeah, my mom. I mean, she just worked so hard in life, and you know, she was a teacher, and then she had to become a housekeeper, and you know, she always says the right things to me, that are both like, you got to keep going, you know, keep climbing, to times where, you know, I was all nervous about some decision, or how to proceed. Like, was it going to be a no or a yes, or how should I respond? And like, she'd say things like, you know, silence is power. I'd say, okay, thanks, Mom. So I finally, you know, she just I looked up to her, because her life wasn't easy, and it didn't go the way she wanted it to, but she managed to get joy out of her children, and just give back or help us in ways that no one else could help me that way.
Thank you. This answer really touched my heart. The next question is, what is the most important risk you took and why?
I think financial risk definitely is the most important thing. I think, yeah, so I think that for many of the people I know, that have said, well, you may have to stop or go on your, work off your earnings or things like that. The finances are just really, really tough. Like, fortunately, I'm able to do this. I have some income through Airbnb. But I think that's the number one risk, is you might be spending all your earnings and it's not going to happen, or your savings. And that for some people is just too risky. Or changing their job, like letting go of a good job.
Thank you for the insightful answer. And how do you continue to grow and develop as a leader?
I think that with each stage of the company, as we grow, because the company is growing, I think that there are more different types of challenges that lie ahead, or that I'm actually encountering now. I'm kind of we can talk offline about the examples, but it's just, to me, a challenge is when you grow, right? That's when you grow with something that you have to push yourself to do. And then again, like, I have this team, so I'm very open, as you can tell, like, transparent about something, and when something like that happens, and whenever we talk about it, just as I'm sharing this with you now, I gain some insights that help me grow. I think I take that forward. So, sometimes it could be something that didn't go well. And I think, okay, that's not something I want to do. Or next time I want to talk to, an employee, a team member, before they send a correspondence, things like that. So I grow, the company helps me grow internally, like as a person, by the things that happen to it. It's funny that I put it and me separately, but yeah. You kind of actually have to do that. Sometimes you just have to, like, not think about it. You just have to, I'm this person, and that's all I'm going to be today. Me.
Thank you, Elle. And now I turn it over to Jose, who would facilitate the next portion of questions.
Okay.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, I have a few more questions. The first one is, how was the self-care journey during this time for you?
Self-care journey. I would sort of give myself like a C on self-care. It's really hard. I think the journey for me was that I didn't really pay attention to it until you get the signs, the burnout. So I'm talking about burnout. So that's actually very common and understandable in something like this. So, when you burn out, that's when you just have to stop. So, like I said, I have a C. I didn't completely implode, but I came pretty close a couple times. And so when that happens, you have to stop, and you have to say, okay, what do I need to do? And I go on some vacation. I went to my parents. I said, I'm going to give up, talk to my mom. You just have to be able to do those things. So to me, the journey was not like a continuous, I'm always taking care of my health. the journey has been really rocky. So you're going along, everything's fine, you feel good, and then boom, you've hit something. So I think that my advice is just to pay attention, to yourself, and don't ignore the signs, because I think that we all have intuition. Is to trust your intuition that there's something that you need to take care of, and do it. Don't wait till it's like too late. Preventative.
Wow.
Preventative.
Yes. Great advice. Thank you. I have two more questions.
Okay.
With your team so far away, all over the country, what are some of your daily habits for connecting with your team?
Well, we're pretty much on Slack all day long. So it's almost like you are, in an office, slacking each other. We have a lot of meetings. So it's essentially like like a structure of a company. So we have a sales meeting, we have marketing meetings, all of that, ops, biz dev, and then those meetings are like, there's at least 1 or 2 meetings a day. So and then there are meetings that are happening without me. So there's a lot of interaction. It's odd. Like I'm a face-to-face person. I think you need to see someone and feel them and hear them, and so it is. I think there are limitations to it. But I think if you have some structures for interaction, even if it's visual, that can help. And yeah, I think that's pretty much. I mean, we've had some conferences, so I've been able to bring in 2 people on a conference. I'd love to bring the overseas team, but that's been prohibitively expensive. But the 3 of us, one in LA, one in Asheville, North Carolina, and myself, we've gone to a conference, and that was a blast. So anytime, and then another team member, the CFOO, is in LA. So we'll try to, connect every now and then. But it's just a mixture. It's a mixture of, DMs about whatever. I know that's happening. These structured meetings, opportunities to get together physically, right? And I think also, like, the Filipinos, I don't speak Tagalog, but there's 3 Filipinos, Ella and Jen and Zia. And sometimes they're in the room, they're speaking Tagalog. So it's like they feel connected to each other. I said we need closed captions, but yeah. So, that's kind of how you feel comfortable, right? They're all different parts of the country, but they're speaking Tagalog.
Thank you, Elle. My last question is, what is the main challenge you face as a POC woman entrepreneur?
Oh, for sure, fundraising, no doubt, hands down. So, and being a female, right? So female of color. So, okay, 2 parts of that. So females, receive less than 2% of all venture capital. It's astonishing to me. Now there's a couple reasons why that happens, and that would be a different a different conversation. But essentially, that shows just how hard it is for women to secure capital. I think the main thing I want to say about that is that there are just assumptions that are made about women versus men. So in my opinion, men are assumed to be capable, and women have to prove that they're capable. So that already creates, a problem with funding, right? So they're like, okay, you can have it, go do your thing. And like, you go do your thing and then you'll have it, funds. So that's hard. That's a tough one to crack. And I think that the other thing is actually not part of directly a response to your question, but it is about you being in an area that's not something that has been part of your career. So that is like, that's also hard if you don't have that expertise. So I've had to prove a lot in this journey. And I do think it is, it is a case of success against the odds. And I think that for many of you, it will probably be that way, with our backgrounds, that, sometimes you have to succeed against the odds. The odds aren't great, but you can still succeed.
Great. Thank you, Ellie, for all your answer. You were very kind with all of us. And now I'm going to turn it over to Alex, who will facilitate the next portion of our event. Alex, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you, Jose and Lina, for facilitating the Q&A portion of this event. And thank you, Elle, again, for answering questions from the audience. We really appreciate you sharing your leadership journey, helpful tips, lessons learned, and leadership advice. And now, participants and facilitators, please share with us what inspired you today and what you have learned from Elle. As we wait for participants to gather their thoughts, I'd like to invite my fellow facilitators to share what they have learned. Lina, would you like to start?
Yes, thank you, Alex. Well, the greatest thing for me was think about what kind of problem you're able to solve. Actually, it's kind of very inspiring thought for me, and I will think about it definitely. Second thing is how you think about something. You can change some things with your thoughts, and it's kind of very, very big thing for me too. I thought about it already, but right now when you say it, it's kind of make a huge impact for me. And your values design your leadership way. Oh my gosh, it was amazing too. And thank you, Elle, again. It was very interesting, and I'm very glad to be here today and facilitate this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. It's very satisfying, to hear how you've affected, or, that you've helped someone. Yes, thank you. I'm really glad.
Thank you, Lina, for your takeaway. Participants, please raise your hand if you want to share your takeaways. And while we are waiting for other participants to share, Jose, would you like to share your takeaways?
Yes, sure. First, that's all. I need to say thank you to Elle, because she shared a lot of tips, a lot of great advices, but I keep in my mind a sentence or a phrase, leading by example. Yes, I like so much this kind of thought. I try to be a leader doing these kind of things. Yes, I think as a leader, we should to think every day we are a role model for a lot of people. Yes, for our people, and you must act in the same way as you speak. I like so much this sentence, and I will try to keep in my mind and in my speech. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jose, for sharing that. I see one of the participants shared her takeaway in the chat. Laya, would you like to read it, or do you want me to read it?
I can read it. It's what you said about what keeps me going is my passion for changing the world. And I think that having like your purpose on mind, like in every action you take, every decision you make, and it's like this passion, it's like in you, and we can feel it. So yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Thank you so much, Laya, for sharing that. I also see another takeaway in the chat. Janelle, would you like to read it, or do you want me to read it?
Oh, sure. I can read it. Actually, Elle, we met during the Connect, and I love hearing your journey. I wanted to make sure I really attended today. It's always so inspiring to hear your story. But I wanted to know, like, how do we get more people to use TipBrightly? Because like I've been to like so many Hiltons and Marriotts, and I remember one time my kid accidentally took the housekeeper's tip. Because, they thought it was I had left in there, and I seriously was mortified, and I felt so bad. And I can feel you, and because housekeepers, I feel they take care of their guests, and I felt so bad that I was not able to thank them in that way. But I'd love more Hiltons to participate.
Yeah, let's talk. I have some ideas. Yeah, I mean, one of the complexities to if I just can add this piece of advice is whatever industry you're interacting with, like learn that, because one of the things I just sort of said, oh yeah, let's implement it into a hotel. I know there was ownership groups, there were management groups, there were brands, there were franchise. I mean, it was very complex now, the industry. So know your industry, so you don't start planning and doing something and then hit this wall because you didn't know about it. And even if you hit the wall, you'll figure it out, but it could save you a headache.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Janelle. I see another takeaway in the chat. Timon, would you like to read it?
Yes. I love this thought because everyone in a team is a leader. As you know, because of some culture, they just accept a person as a leader, and neither one have to listen to that person. So I love this idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Timon, for your takeaway. We still have time for, I think, 1 or 2 takeaways from participants. If someone wants to share, please raise your virtual hand and I would call you. In the meantime, I can share my takeaway. I think the thing that inspired me the most was about your entrepreneurship journey. As you said, it's quite challenging, and the person who takes this journey should be prepared emotionally and physically. And if it's tough, it doesn't mean that something is not okay with you. It just means that everything has the same way. So yeah, for me it was quite valuable to understand that it's okay to fail, or it's okay to be challenged by the situation. You just should keep going, should focus on your goal, and you would achieve it. Thank you for the inspiration.
There is a saying, and I apologize for not knowing who it is. You could probably look it up, but it's fail early and fail often. So that's something to tell yourself, when you're throughout the journey, is that you're doing something new. Whatever you're doing, no one has really done in your way. They may be the same product or same industry, but it's your way of doing it. And the only way you sometimes learn is by failing. I think that's a strong word. That part I don't like because it's just such a strong word, but essentially the idea, right, is that you want to keep you learn by mistakes. And that's okay. It's totally okay.
Thank you so much. I'm trying to practice that in my life. Yeah, I think, Lena, you would like to share something else?
I want to share one more takeaway. It's very interesting thought for me too, that my company helps me growth. So you built a company, you help your company growth, and now your company help you growth. So it's very interesting cycle for me, and I amazed to hear it, and your way to talking about it, it's very inspiring. Thank you. And thank you everyone for sharing your takeaways and joining us today. And now in closing, I will hand this over to Vice Chancellor Geisce Ly.
Thank you again, Lena, and the other student facilitators. You all did a great job today. Thank you so much for being so brave. Again, public speaking, facilitating, event planning is a skill, and I think you all have demonstrated again, a great, it's a great skill set to continue to cultivate. But again, I just want to thank Elle. Thank you so much. If there's anything that I want to share, it's that you embody this phrase, this quote, if not me, who, if not now, when. I think you're the poster child for I'm going to do it. I'm going to change the world. I'm going to do it now. I think that's very powerful. That's very refreshing. Again, thank you for sharing your challenges as a female entrepreneur and in a very male dominated space. But I think your legacy is going to help change millions of lives. So again, I just am so proud that you're able to do what you do, and we're just so again grateful to be able to learn from you. So Elle, thank you so much.
Thank you. I just wanted to share, we just did the numbers and it looks like we're going to hit $500,000 in tips by the end of the year. So that's very exciting to me, thinking about all the women who benefit from that, and we'll just keep going. So keep going. That's my other advice for you. Keep going. Keep going. Thank you. This was a wonderful experience for me. The way you structured it, I think is wonderful. It really worked. I wish, law firms even understood the need to structure just fireside chats like this, and I appreciate hearing the feedback. And I think that as a speaker, to hear and see as I look at this what actually resonated is really, really satisfying, because I sometimes just say these things, right, and I don't really know what hits. And I'm just smiling that some of the things I say to my team, like, are here. So thank you.
No,
All
thank
right.
you. So
Okay.
again, there'll be an opportunity for you to join us on campus, at the end of this academic year.
I
So
will see you all there. Okay. Very good. Have a great weekend. And I am not checking email. I'm going to
That's
take
right.
a nap.
You'll get some rest.
All right. Bye.
Thank you, Elle. For the students on the
Thank you.
call, we just want to do a quick promotion of our next speaker. Oops, let me just move this over. So this is our next Leadership Fireside Chat speaker. His name is Jeff Minhas. Jeff is a dear friend of mine. He is the Exec Director of National Constituent Engagement at UC Irvine, my alma mater. Jeff is branding UC Irvine across the world. So you're going to hear from somebody who is very much into branding, identity development for a, again, prestigious university. So again, it's going to take place on September 15th on Zoom. So you have not yet registered, please do so. Again, we're just delighted that we have Jeff Minhas joining us in about a month. We have 2 other amazing speakers lined up for November and October. And I just confirm our speaker, another speaker, but again, one speaker at a time. But again, students, thank you for joining us today. Continue to do what you need to do to be a successful student. This leadership development opportunity is simply another option for you to just enhance, right, your leadership skills and increase your leadership knowledge. So thank you all. Amy, thank you so much. Mia, thank you so much. Student facilitators, thank you. We also have our student chancellor, Malanali. Thank you for joining us today. I always appreciate Malanali's support. And again, have a wonderful, relaxing weekend. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy weekend. Bye.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh my God, kids, you guys are amazing. I want to thank the facilitators. You guys are so amazing to stay here with me and did this. We'll have another discussions to follow up on what happened. There's a lot of things that happened. I had to keep going back and forth, so I want to thank you guys for playing along with me in this role play, but you guys did an amazing job, and I'm so proud of you, really proud of you. What a wonderful group. And I just want to say, thank you, and then we'll get together before then. I'm sorry, Jose, you can't really come, but what I like to do is in a few months, I'd like to host a little get together, a little luncheon for all of you guys. Just thank you guys. But Lena, what a wonderful, amazing job you did last minute stepping up. Really, really proud of you.
Thank
no
you.
nervousness at all.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah. And Timon, thank you. I mean, I got confused, Timon. I was going to give you some role, but I didn't know if you were Alex or she was Alex. I was sending them chat and she's like, no, it's not me, it's Alex. So I would have loved to give you more parts to, so maybe, you know, you can actually change the name even if you're using Alex login. You can go in and change your name.
I don't know how, but before I can change, but now I can find where I can change my name. So
oh, okay, yeah, because I was gonna give you some, but then Alex like, no, it's not me. It's and you're like, it's not me. So but I want to thank you for staying, and I want to thank all of you guys. You guys are amazing. Okay, and Jose, what a wonderful thing for you to join. So thank you for stepping up because Malinali, you know, somehow probably couldn't connect, he disconnected.
Don't worry.
Yeah,
we are a team. We support together.
oh, I'm so proud of you guys. It's amazing. And you heard from
Yes.
Elle, right? We have an amazing script. It flows so well, even though she doesn't know what happened in the end. It was like a lot of stuff that happened. But I think I have some ideas now. So next time we're gonna break up the questions and part. I think it's really fun that way.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes,
yeah, thank you. We'll have a debrief next week.
Thank you.
Take care. Have a good weekend.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
thank you.